State your name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
I'm Michael Watson. I'm at 2380 Lalabon Road. I've lived there for 38 years. And so I come before council tonight at the behest of probably first my wife, numerous residents, as well as the administration at Jesu School, pastor, and numerous members of my community. And I wanted to talk about some of the dangerous intersections in our community that really need to be addressed. And I specifically talk about the Washington and Miramar. And at those intersections, and I frequent them, they're known to us as the 5-point intersections. And it seems like there's a lot of confusion amongst drivers who are going through those intersections on how to address them. And we seem to have a lot of people moving into our community as of late as well. And I'm seeing more and more people driving through stop signs at those intersections, or understand the meaning of a stop sign, or what have you. So I know that I've also spoken with multiple officers in the community, and they have also said that it is a significant issue in the community. They cannot address it the way that they need to. My recommendation is by putting in roundabouts, which have been proven to control traffic and traffic safety, and there is room in these intersections in order to install these traffic circles or roundabouts. We can upgrade our community in a way that they could be capstones in our community. We could put in a garden in these roundabouts. Maybe we could have like a little ice rink during cold weather times. They could be a community gathering place. And there could be proper lighting and signage, but I want to step further. I brought a sign here where I crudely drew up the intersection at Miramar, Meadowbrook, and Washington, and all the various stop signs. But what I want to draw your attention to quickly is Jesu School is essentially right here, and it's up the hill. And there are now 2 crossing guards that have been hired to manage this intersection. And Lieutenant Ryan has done a great job trying to get it under control. But he can literally park a patrol car at every spot in this intersection, and people will still drive through the stop signs. And he looks at me and will say, "What can I do? I'm trying my best. I put people here. There's cars, there's flashing lights. People still don't care." And so there needs to be a more effective way to control this intersection, as well as the one over by Garrity School. This is just an accident waiting to happen, where some child or member of the community or student at John Carroll is going to be run over, and everybody will shrug their shoulders and said, "I know something needed to be done," but nothing was. The 20-mile-an-hour speed limit for Jesu is on Jesu's campus. There's a little sign over here saying a crosswalk ahead, a little sign here, 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 and here. There is no painted school on the road over on Washington Boulevard over here. There's nothing over on Miramar as you crest the hill to say that there is a school up ahead. There's nothing on Washington. There is a painted sign on the road here. I don't understand the use of that. There may be a few students that actually cross over in this area, but they're guided to come over to this way by the school. In addition, there's also out towards Warrensville an end school zone. There is no beginning of the school zone. There is nothing to mark that to say this is a 20-mile-an-hour zone, not coming from any direction until you get to right here, right on Jesu's campus. Something needs to be done, and my recommendation is a roundabout. It's been effective in many communities, and You know, like I said, it can be a capstone in our community, and it also at the intersection of just past the John Carroll baseball field. You could also put in a small roundabout there as well, because it is a very confusing area. And I also recommend stepping up patrol to stop these people from going through these intersections. I walk my children to school frequently, and I say we need to be very conscious of this. Once again, it's been missing for several years. We have moved the crossing of Miramar Boulevard to right in front of the school to avoid that intersection as much as possible. In addition, my other recommendation real quick is to shut down Miramar Boulevard during the times that there is busing there, when Jesu is coming to school and releasing. Reason being is cars surge. And you can stop traffic. I mean, traffic can come down to the church, but they cannot go any further. There's been multiple accidents that have occurred there. There's been buses that have been impacted as well. As a result, children have to wait for a new bus to come to go home. That delays their, you know, and that delays several communities. But people end up driving on the grass, over the curb. Nobody knows what to do there. So, I mean, and it just needs to be for maybe a half hour twice a day during the school year. If we could shut down that to be just a one-way, that would resolve a lot of issues that exist in that area. That's it.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the audience? Just state your name and address.
Tina Byer, University Parkway. My community knows me as Kana. I believe in giving credit where credit is due. First, I'd like to thank for their continued excellent service. My block greatly appreciates the caution and care that our trash buggy driver exercises in navigating around our children on Monday mornings as they wait by my neighbor's driveway for their school bus. So Mr. Pennington, please pass on our gratitude to your group. Next, I'd further like to give credit where credit is due to Mayor Brennan for posting on Facebook the legal version of the city's notice of exterior inspection the day after our last council meeting, where I spoke about the 6-month delay in correcting the version of the letter that was improperly sent in October. So Mayor Brennan, I'd like to thank you for issuing this to correct this. Next, I'd like to point out the following, that a supporter of the mayor posted on Facebook last week regarding the current campaign to recall the mayor. Casually noted in passing, all petitions submitted to the County Board of Elections are public records. The names and signatures on petitions can be and will be examined by interested observers to see by my signature and will not allow the mayor to try and intimidate me. 2, we neither want nor need anyone to falsify a single signature, not even one. 3, and this response is mine. As I stated at the last council meeting on April 15th, Mayor Brennan, as an attorney himself, needs to stop weaponizing the office of the mayor against the residents of University Heights. I should add, any attempts by the mayor or his supporters to intimidate, threaten, or harass citizens who are lawfully exercising their First Amendment rights may be reported to the University Heights Police Department, the city's law director, and the city prosecutor for review. We call on the mayor and all of his supporters to refrain from attempting to intimidate those who dare exercise their legally protected right of free speech and assembly. Finally, we would like to remind the mayor and his supporters that it is illegal for a public official to deny or negatively influence any city services or requests based on a resident having signed a petition. Thank you.
Are there any communications?
Yes, I do. Since the last city council meeting, we celebrated Earth Day by organizing the city's first sustainable home fair on Sunday, April 21st, 2024. We developed the idea of holding this event after receiving and reviewing a report from Power Green Future Ohio, analyzing the carbon footprint of our community and finding that the area in which the Citizens Advisory Committee on Sustainability, we organized and held this inaugural event. We had approximately 100 people attend to speak with vendors and organizations about making home improvement. The consensus we heard from participating organizations and vendors was that the attendees were very interested in their services and information, and that they would all sustainable home fair next year. My thanks to Deanna Bremer Fisher for spearheading the organization and implementation of this event, to Alan Pennington, and to the committee members who helped organize and participated at the event. The city commemorated Arbor Day the students helped plant the trees along London Road while the service department stood by to its 46th straight year as a Tree City USA. This ceremonial planting Mayor event in Garfield Heights, hosted by Garfield Heights Mayor Matt Burke, and sponsored by Cuyahoga Greenways, the Metropolitan at 2 p.m. ride. The ride will include stops at homes with solar panel installations to promote green energy here at the university. Coming up, also May 15th will be the presentation University Heights from Idlewood Village to City of Beautiful Homes.
I have no report. Are there any other members that have a report from City Hall? Okay, now we are now up to reports and communications from directors.
Collection-wise, due to the filing deadline being in the middle of that month, consistent with the retainer fee, $1,840,847. Last year, just to give you a little context, last year's April collections were $1,570,556. That difference, there were a couple of big refunds that were processed earlier in the year. So this excess over last year.
Vice Mayor, no report.
And Chief Perko.
Just an update. We had a water main break on Fenwick this afternoon. Cleveland Water didn't come out and get it shut off. I just got word now from our OIC that they're planning on coming back out tomorrow to assess the damage, and they hope to get it repaired tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. And service, Mr. Pennington. Are there any questions for the service director? Okay, building. Okay, city engineer.
Just continuing to work on plans and getting projects together to go out to bid. I'll be back a little bit later to talk about that. We've had a number of plan reviews that we've been conducting, so we've just been staying busy. And we did get the Yavi Alpha survey delivered to the city. I did forget to mention that at our last meeting. So, any questions?
Thank you. Okay, communications, I see that Mr. Cook is in here.
He is not, but I have a written report which I'll read. Mr. Cook is at a school event and is unable to attend this evening. The summer issue of the Zag magazine is currently at the printer. Advanced copies of the magazine should arrive at City Hall next week, while residents should expect to see the issue in their mailboxes soon after. Our headliner for the Juneteenth celebration
that they have prepared up to date.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mrs. Drucker? And then move to the main agenda. Letter A is approval of Planning Commission recommendation for the demolition of the current house 2512 Claver Road in order to construct a new home on the same lot. Is there a representative for 2512 Claver Road here that would like to present?
Somewhat in project condition, the owners had actually owned
actually own a home a couple of houses down, also own and construct a new home on the property for their use. The site plan was presented and approved by the planning commission, along with 2 variances that were needed to facilitate the project. One was the increase of the front yard setback, reducing the front yard setback from the prescribed 40 feet to 30 feet. And the other one was a lot coverage increase.
Yes, so we'll get to the variances in a minute. Right now, this agenda item is just for the demolition. So I know that Mr. Rock and the mayor are part of the planning commission, which approved this. Mayor, did you want to say anything?
I'll keep it brief. It's a very good project, and appreciate the applicant's desire to proceed with it. As council will recall, demolition is usually framed in terms of approving a plan for what comes after, which is our item B item. But that said, I think, and I hope the council will find the project acceptable and would pass item A as recommended by the planning commission, and then pass item B. So, thank you.
Mr. King?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Going off of what the mayor just appropriate to approve the site plan before the demolition. I believe that having a site plan is a requirement of for the demolition.
I don't think it matters. I mean, we're going to need both items to be able to proceed.
If I may, I might suggest inviting that we discuss item B even in the context of item A, take both items together. And if the council then finds them well taken, they can approve them or make motions and vote on them in that order, A and then B. But if it may be helpful to the council to hear more about the actual plan from the presenter prior to considering item A. Makes sense.
So there's 2 variances. One is the coverage variances for 34.7%. And the other one is additional variances allowing a basement kitchen for Passover and a basement and bedrooms for guests.
No, it was the front yard setback.
Yeah, Vice Mayor, the basement kitchen will go to BZA. So it's a front yard setback and a percentage.
So we just need to amend that agenda then. Ms. Thomas, do you have
It was subject to. Right.
subject to the applicant?
It's subject to the approval of the BZA also, of those other items. That's a condition.
The lot coverage and the subject to the applicant provided by signage development. Ms. Fertel, do you want to discuss?
The applicant.
So, I don't think so, because this is not quasi-judicial.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, it's
That's
a,
okay.
I think
So we're confirming. Okay. Yes.
The Cleaver Road south of Washington has some variation with the way the homes are placed on the block. And so this 40-foot setback is not consistent among the properties already existing on the home. So that's kind of the justification for this request, being that it's a new home. It enables the homeowners to have a more generous garage and accomplish some of their things on the first floor. So that was kind of why we...
Planning Commission asked that we would be moved back to line it up exactly with the neighboring homes. So it's consistent with this one.
And the lot coverage is just based on the size of the new home that's being constructed on the lot.
Yeah, if I may raise to that. Just expounding on what the law director said, and on that last point, Yeah, the other homes around it are set back 30.6 feet, and thus this keeps them.
Lot size, I think we're very well covered at the planning meeting. Matter of fact, because of some delays that occurred for this particular applicant as well.
Any other questions? Okay, so we have 2 agenda items regarding this. I will make a motion for the approval of Planning Commission recommendation for the demolish, it's not really, it's not worded correctly in the agenda, of the current house at 2512 Claver Road in order to construct a new home on the same lot. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Weiser. Is there any further discussion? Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks?
Aye.
Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. White?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall? Aye. Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
And just to state agenda item B for the record, approval of Planning Commission recommendation for the site plan approval for new single-family house dwelling at 2512 Claver Road with a 30.6 feet front yard setback and a 34.7% yard lot cover the city engineer dated May 2nd, 2024. Thank you.
Pete Mailer on behalf of the movement. The request was approved by the planning. They extend out from her current lot 1 or 2 towards the neighbor's parcel, which is why she's requesting the council's approval is to purchase the 3-foot split from the neighbor who has consented to the sale of same.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant? Is there a motion?
So,
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks? Aye. Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. White?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall? Aye. Ms. Weiser?
aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Approved. Okay, agenda item D. Ordinance 2024-32, amending section 280.02 of the city administrative code relating to the composition and method of appointment of the officers of the University of City Beautiful Corporation and declaring an emergency. This should say first reading. Ms. Thomas, if you could just make a note of that. Yeah. Yeah, Ms. Weiser, this was co-sponsored by Councilwoman Weiser and Councilman Rowe.
The reason this is on the agenda, I asked for ordinance 2024-32 to be prepared and submitted to council for approval. Councilman John Rock is a co-sponsor of the ordinance, and I wish to note my appreciation for his co-sponsorship. This ordinance makes a change to the officers of the City Beautiful Corporation, the city's Community Improvement Corporation. Originally, the president and vice president by code were the mayor and vice mayor of the city. This revision would remove the assignment of these offices from the mayor and vice mayor and specify they be elected from within the board of the corporation. I have encouraged in the past the mayor to discuss changes he wishes to make with council before submitting legislation so both parties are aware of the reasoning for the changes. We took the step, that is Councilman Rock, Vice Mayor Weiss, and myself, to set up a meeting with Mayor Brennan to discuss the reasons for the change and to encourage his support for the change. We met with him before the planning meeting on May 2nd. I will address some of his comments here and when the companion legislation is introduced. Community improvement corporations provide cities with flexibility they do not have. They are legally chartered nonprofit entities. CICs are created under Chapter 1724 of the Ohio Revised Code for, quote, advancing, encouraging, and promoting the industrial, economic, commercial, and civic development of a community or an area. This opens the door for our CIC to look for grants and other funding streams to not only address economic development initiatives with our businesses, but also look for funding for improving our housing stock and assisting homeowners as well. The possibilities are endless if we put our residents and community first. Our CIC has done nothing over the past 2 years since the president, the mayor, has prevented anything from moving forward. It is my hope by changing the appointment of the mayor as the president, it will force a more collaborative position by the mayor, allowing the organization to finally begin to move forward and provide benefits for our community. He could still be the president of the board, but would have to garner the majority of the votes of the board to do that. This revision does not minimize his elected office, but it acknowledges that the president of the CIC is not an elected position. When we met with the mayor, he said he was being collaborative with his suggestion to change the organization by adding 2 mayor-appointed individuals to the board. This is not collaboration when you refuse to allow forward movement until you get approval and control of the board. Rather, that is a demand. It is a demand that is problematic and can lead to the CIC being used in a manner that is unprofessional, to say the least. An example is what the mayor brought up in our discussion as well. He offered, as an example of his need to have additional appointees, the refusal of the board to approve an invoice of over $100,000 for the sponsorship of a race that had already occurred. It was rejected by the board. That is correct. However, it was rejected because he never submitted a motion to the board to approve sponsoring the race before suddenly expecting it to pay the invoice. If someone on the board can just act and commit the organization to spending money without the approval of the board, imagine what could happen going forward. If the mayor is citing this as an example of being offensive to him, he is signaling he wants to do whatever he wants with the CIC without the approval of anyone. That is just dangerous, and it is not good business practices. We also in the meeting did discuss the possibility of giving the council resident appointment to the mayor. However, when I asked him what he would do if council did not approve his appointment, he said, well, I'd appoint within 30 days, or maybe not even appoint anyone, leaving the organization at a 3-3 standstill. We also indicated that if we were to change the appointment, we would hope that Mr. Belt, who is the current appointee, would be appointed to fill out his remaining 2 years of his term. The mayor refused this as well. That was a deal breaker for me. Sean Belt is one of the fairest people I know. We have had many in-depth discussions on a wide range of topics. I value his ability to challenge in a positive manner with great points that help me come to a broader view of any issue. While we might not agree all of the time, at the end, he understands being able to disagree in a positive manner. An example of his commitment to the CIC in the city is the discussion I had with him about the issues on the CIC and possible solutions about 3 to 4 months ago. He asked me to hold off submitting this change to help him, to give him time to work with the directors and the mayor to find a way forward without a major change. I appreciate he understands why now the change is being submitted. One final comment about the construction of the board for our CIC. In our discussion with the mayor, he claimed that the CICs of other cities are done basically with administration representatives having control. I spent some time reviewing other city CICs and found a number of them throughout Ohio that do not have the amount of city control ours has. For example, Worthington, Ohio. In the enabling ordinance, the city stated not less than 2/5 of the governing board should be elected or appointed city officials. In the case of our 7-person board, that would be a total of 3 persons minimum. Shelby, Ohio, has a 12-person board, of which 8 are community members from nonprofits and businesses, and 4 are elected and appointed officials, 33%. Twinsburg, Ohio, has a 9-person board with 4 elected or appointed officials, 44%. Certainly, there are other CICs that are heavily controlled by city officials. My point here is a quick search turned up a number where cities are comfortable with others running their CIC. For me, these potential changes are the only way to get our city CIC moving forward again and finally beginning to do good things for the city and its residents.
Thank you, Ms. Weiser.
Ms. Mayor?
Sure, Mr. Cooney.
Has there been any public discussion regarding these ordinances?
So the ordinance that we're talking about right now is just the City Beautiful ordinance,
The City Beautiful.
which is section 280.02, and the only change in this entire ordinance is how the board president and vice president is elected.
My question was, has there been any public discussion about the changes being proposed?
There has not been any public discussion.
This is my concern. That it's on first reading, and we have when something like this comes before, it goes through committee first. Then it comes to council. And I would recommend at this time that we consider tabling this item on the agenda. We have a committee of the whole meeting on Wednesday. We can have a discussion at that time. And then hopefully coming out of that meeting, we can bring it up on first reading at the next council meeting.
So we can have if the council would like, we can have a separate committee of the whole meeting just because the Wednesday meeting is going to be dedicated to facilities. But we can definitely schedule a second one if the council would like that. And then we can bring it back on second reading.
And I understand, Ms. Weiser's concerns. I hear you. For other things, we've always gone through committee, and I have this on first reading. Seems to be, different than what we've done with other issues that have been presented to us before. And I'm not asking that we consider tabling this item, bring it up at the next committee of the whole meeting, or a committee of the whole meeting, and then we can, hopefully coming out of that, we come to the following council meeting with the information that comes out of that committee of the whole.
May I respond?
Sure, yeah, we'll do a discussion.
We currently have not had a community meeting, which might have been the better committee to run it through. I'm not quite understanding why you feel this needs a committee of the whole.
We're asking for a change of the ordinance, is that correct?
I'm asking for a minor change in an ordinance.
We're asking for the change in the ordinance.
I might be asking for a change in an ordinance, but we haven't had an appropriate committee meeting.
That's why I ask for the vice mayor for consideration that it's done at a committee of the whole.
I think Mr. Cooney's asking for a committee of the whole because, let's just back up a little bit. The CIC was created in a committee of the whole originally.
Okay.
I think that's why
I'm
it
just
will go
following the path, essentially.
I think that's where it was originally when because we were in it together. I think that's where we originally created it.
Had nothing to do with the creation of the CIC.
No, I'm thinking that you were part of the original, when we originally created it, you might have been in that committee of the whole meeting.
No.
As a public.
No.
Okay, that's,
No.
it would be that.
I wouldn't have been, I wasn't on council.
No, I know, I'm saying, I think you might have, I could be wrong. I'm just thinking you might have been in that public meeting, that's all. It was a long time ago.
Obviously.
No, it was originally in a committee of the whole committee. We definitely, again, it's on first reading. We can definitely put it in a committee and then bring it back to for second reading.
I'm just concerned that it's being presented first reading as well. So that's why my recommendation, consider tabling. Then we can
hammer out
review, and
details
then
out
we
of it.
can bring it back to council.
Does anyone else have any other comments? Ms. Weiser, are you okay putting it in committee? If we
No.
have a quick meeting?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment. I do think that we do need to have a discussion on the record at a committee of the whole or some other public forum with respect to this proposal. I have generally gotten away from having private meetings with groups of council members, even when that group is less than a full quorum. And I think there is something to be said for being able to discuss that when a discussion is had that isn't in a public forum, to bring something out where it can be then discussed further. And I recognize from Mr. Cooney's comments that the first question was when's there a public meeting that perhaps he had missed? And there was none. There is a I did, as Ms. Weiser said, and her request accepted an invitation to a meeting last Thursday evening of herself, Mrs. Weiss and Mr. Ron. What I don't appreciate is the mischaracterization of things I said in that meeting, because of course we don't have a record to go back on to point at with respect to who said what, and the context in which certain things were said. So, this is the sort of reason why I've generally not accepted meetings like this, but I thought the CIC was important. I thought the discussion about all the CICs that are on this agenda are important, and I was willing to take that meeting. What I'm disappointed in is that my comments from that meeting have been mischaracterized by the council member. I deny much of what was said, or would deny the context in which it's been presented, and certainly I would indicate that these were not complete remarks. And I guess going forward on the CIC, we'll have to have these discussions out on the record. If members of council can't limit their remarks to what they said as opposed to mischaracterizing what other people said. So we did have a CIC meeting since the last meeting, where I did make a motion to ask that a majority to take action be 5 out of 7, thus ensuring that any action taken by the CIC had support by both council members, council member appointees, and members of the administration in order to do something. If the CIC is going to do something, there should be broad support for doing it. And where the CIC has run awry is when political decisions have been made by the CIC by the 4 out of 7 majority, which are made up of council members and their appointees. So, first and foremost, and on the record, I made the suggestion that the simplest solution was to simply change the majority needed to take action. Would not require any changes to the board composition. Would not require adding anybody or removing anybody. It would simply require that 5 out of 7 were necessary to take action. That did not pass our CIC. In fact, it failed for Ron the second. This after administrative board members expressed for the record her indication that she would recuse herself from the conversation in any vote, and the other simply acting accordingly without specifically saying so on the record. I would invite continued efforts to work together on reforming the CIC in a way that does not, that ensures that we have broad support for things the CIC does between council and administration. That's all I've been asking for ever since we had the 4-3 vote on the recycling survey. And a change that instead removes the mayor as the president and the vice mayor as the vice president, and instead leaves it to the same council and council governance issue. It merely solidifies and consolidates power by that council-controlled majority. And I would urge that that is not a reform that resolves the situation. It will lead to further abuse, as happened with that we do that in a public setting. Apparently all the comments will have to be on the record, sir. But
just clarify a couple of things, and then after Ms. Weiser, we will discuss if we're gonna put this into committee or not. This was a garbage, this is a trash survey, it was not a recycling survey. Every member of the CIC is a board member. They're not elected officials. So everyone has equal standing on the board. No one has any political interest on the CIC. Everybody has very clearly on the CIC, and Ms. Bremer Fisher takes notes. I hope they're reflected accurately, especially in the last meeting. We are all equal board members that have the understanding that we are working for the residents, and that is it. And we have all discussed that we want to collaborate together. So there is no agenda on the CIC. It has been very clearly stated there. There were other. It's council. Every member wants to work together. There is nothing on that agenda, and we have many, many items that are just sitting there because you are the only person that can sign off on it. Ms. Weiser.
Okay. Mayor, I am exceptionally careful about what I say and make sure that it is correct. Unlike something I had to read into the minutes a few council meetings ago, where you made public statements about me that had absolutely no basis in fact. And you know I can send you the Zoom link so you can listen to it again. That meeting was requested as a courtesy to you to go over these potential changes and to discuss them with you. So a survey, and I have a solution to that, and maybe it's time we did it, because that will end all of these little trash survey problems. The issue is this. It is that CIC is at a dead standstill, and it has been. And you know it as well as I do, because I've watched you prevented from doing anything. Absolutely anything. About the thing it does, it acts as the receiver of a grant from NOPEC that goes back out to fund one of the summer concert series. And that is not what this group could do. That organization could be doing so many dynamic things for the city that you could hang your name on, but because of the dead stop it is at, it is unable to do any of those things. But quite frankly, I stand by, and to some degree, I think I can prove a lot of what I put in this.
I don't know how you can prove it when there's no record of the meeting. And unfortunately, I'm in a position where 2 to 3 people who were at the meeting with me are here and have said things that I did not say or characterized them in a way that I did not say them. You can say that this meeting was as a courtesy to me. It's wholly discourteous then to come into this room and misrepresent my words. It also tells me that I can't trust you to have meetings of that kind. I ought to be able to have a meeting with the vice mayor. I ought to be able to have a meeting with a council member. Or what you've done is you've demonstrated you're not trustworthy in that respect, that you are going to miss what you advocated for. And I think what you've advocated for, to the extent that your remarks advocate for a certain point of view, I think that's accurate. But to the extent that you have described what you say I said, Perhaps at most it is what you think I said or how you took it, but it isn't what I said. And it certainly isn't what I meant. And it isn't, one more time, what I said. And to take out of context the idea that I would want Mr. Bell removed from the committee when we were discussing a myriad of different ways of configuring the board or how, who might be on it, would be on it, I think is unfair to Mr. Bell. It's certainly unfair to the community. It's unfair to this discussion. And, this is, you're going to go back and talk about how, you said that you're referring cryptically to some conversation because they never lied to you. So, this is one of those things where...
Vice Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to table agenda item D and refer to the council committee of the whole.
Is there a second? Okay, so there is no second. It's only our first reading.
The agenda should be amended then. There should be a motion to amend the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Cody. Is there a motion to amend agenda item D to first reading?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Wise?
Aye.
Ms. Weiser?
You'll say Ms. Weiss, aye. It's, okay. It is now on first reading. It will be on second reading. Agenda item E is a completely new, different, and new ordinance. This is it's ordinance 2024-30. There are two versions on here. One is a council version sponsored by Ms. Weiser and Mr. Rock. Agenda item F is sponsored by the mayor. Version 2 is agenda item E. This is establishing Chapter 281 of the City Administrative Code, creating and relating to the University Heights Parking Garage Community Improvement Corporation, and authorizing and directing the mayor to file appropriate articles of incorporation, therefore, and declaring an emergency on first reading. Just as a side note, I do want Ms. Weiser to discuss this. This was also discussed with the mayor in a meeting before the Planning Commission. There are some possible flexibilities that Ms. Weiser will discuss. Mr. Rock is not here. There was a pre-planned absence many months ago. I do know that I think Ms. Weiser would like him here to discuss that, so that would be discussed at the next meeting. That's why this is on first reading, but I will turn the floor over to Ms. Weiser.
This version of the ordinance is sponsored by Councilman Rock and myself. Our version and the mayor's version agree as to the function of the CIC. The only difference is in the construction of the board of the CIC. When we were discussing the changes to the original CIC, that's Mr. Rock and myself, we noted we still needed to create the CIC, which will be the unit that holds ownership of the University Square Garage for the city of University Heights. We duplicated the basic structure as revised of the original CIC with the following modifications. We replaced the Economic Development Director and the Housing and Community Development Director with the city engineer and the fire chief or the fire prevention officer. The logic for the change is simple. We need extra second reading.
Thank you, Ms. Weiser. Are there any comments or questions? Yeah, Mr. Cooney.
Yeah, I'd like to just again reiterate my concern for both versions. There's been no public discussion. These should have come up through committee. When it's being presented at council, I'm just really disappointed between these two agenda items and the previous one, the lack of public discussion on them. I'm not saying that I favor one or the other, but the committees are set up for a reason, and the information is brought up to council. We actually just had a seat at the committee meeting where we discussed the words shall or may for bike riding. And my concern is this is obviously a very significant issue that's been discussed over the last several years with the University Square development. And I understand the importance of the CIC. I do think the CIC can do a lot of good work and should do more. I agree with Ms. Weiser on that. But however, we should consider it again, tabling these agenda items, referring to council committee to whole, and then bring it to council at a later date.
Thank you, Mr.
Vice Mayor, may I respond?
Yeah, Ms. Weiser.
Councilman Cooney, if you read through both of the potential ordinances for that, word for word, ours matches the mayor's regarding the actual what that CIC will do. So there is no difference of opinion on that at all. The difference of opinion is on the board that would oversee that. And I think that is in essence really a very minor, although the mayor might see it very differently, a minor disagreement over how the board is constructed. There's no objection, there's no difference, there's no argument as to what that CIC should be doing at all.
My only objective is the process. We have a process for bringing things through the committee. There's a reason why we do it, to build consensus and to then present it to council. So I'm not referring to any of the content, it's just the process.
So I actually see a difference in this new ordinance versus the change in agenda item D. And since this is a brand new one, establishing the garage CIC, so I would favor putting that into the Mayor, did you have something to say?
Yes. Again, I understand Mr. Cooney's point, and it's well taken. If I could do this all over again, I would have refrained from having a meeting with folks who would mischaracterize what said in the meeting. Once again, I did not object to having a citizen on the CIC for the garage. And in fact, the proposal that we're going to read in the next item does include a citizen appointed by the mayor and approved by council. So a citizen would be included in the, and I'll discuss more on that when we get to that next agenda item. But again, I would encourage council members, if you're going to talk about comments that were had off the record, refrain from mischaracterizing or characterizing other people's comments, and stick to your own. Stick to what you spoke about. Stick to what you are vouching for on your own behalf, what your position is, and not mischaracterize my words. Thank you.
I would make a motion. Just a question for the law director. If there are two agenda items, if I wanted to make a motion to put two into committee, I should do that each separately?
You could do it either way. You need another motion to combine them before that, if you want to do that. I still think you can do it. There's separate items, so you can do it separately. I would recommend that you be consistent with the two.
My question, what if they both pass?
If they both pass,
Is there a
then
conflict?
there's a conflict. Yes.
That's Vice Mayor, that's why I recommend we move this to committee. So we don't have any conflicts.
What do you mean? Yes.
Both versions.
Yeah, no, I would put E and F.
Right, and by the same thing, Mr. Cooney, that's why I would say if you're doing something, putting E in committee, I would recommend you put F in committee because you need to have that full discussion going to it.
No, I would put E and F in committee.
Okay, we're at table.
Yes,
All right, thank you.
that's my motion.
Is that your motion?
That's what will be separately.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
I am going to make a motion to table agenda item E.
So moved.
Thomas?
Second, I'm sorry.
Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks? Aye. Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
I will make another motion to table agenda item F.
I'll second.
Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Ms. Marshall? Aye. Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
Making another council of the whole meeting quickly, so these two items will be the only ones discussed. Okay, we are now up to agenda letter G. Ordinance 2024-31, authorizing the advance of funds from the University Square TIF. I don't know if Mr. Kennedy, you want to discuss this with the law director?
If you remember at the end of last year, we did 3 advances. Advances, again, for everybody's general knowledge, are loans from the general fund to another fund. Transfers are permanent movement of monies. So at the end of last year, in December, we advanced money to 3 different funds. We are, in this ordinance, repaying the general fund back for 2 of those advances. We're still waiting the receipt of some outside reimbursements for the other one, but these 2 will take care of the advance/loans that were given to both the Capital Improvement Fund and the TIF fund.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Kennedy about this? Okay, is there a motion approving ordinance 2024-31?
So moved, Vice Mayor.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks? Aye. Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
Point of order.
Oh,
It's an emergency.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's my mistake. So can we go back to suspension of the rules?
Sure. Let's go back and do both votes.
Okay, do we have to rescind the,
Just, I mean, it doesn't matter. So just, I would make a motion to suspend the rules.
okay, so is there a motion to suspend the rules on ordinance 2024-31?
So moved.
I'll second. Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks? Aye. Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
And on the main motion, is there a motion on emergency? I'll
So
make the
moved.
motion. Mr. King, are you seconding? On emergency?
Seconded on emergency.
Okay. Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks? Aye. Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall? Aye. Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
Sorry.
Agenda, letter H, ordinance 2024-19, amending the monetary value threshold amounts contained in section 212.01 and 212.02 of the Codified Ordinance relating to the contracting procedures and professional contracts, and this is on second reading. I introduced this. All this, what this ordinance does is it changes the threshold of our professional service ordinance from $50,000 to $75,000 based on the state of Ohio thresholds. We had a pretty lengthy discussion about it in our last meeting. Were there any discussions on this? Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
A second. Okay, Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sacks? Aye. Mr. Cooney?
Aye.
Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Weiser?
Aye.
Passes. We're on agenda letter I. Mr. Pennington is going to discuss the motion to seek bids for the purchase of one Adobe utility refuse collection vehicle.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Pennington. I had a question, General. Mr. Kennedy, can you send out an updated look forward for our capital expenditures per department? I know you have a capital chart.
For this year and
Look, I think we have 5-year lookout, don't we?
There should be a 5-year update that I have, yeah.
If you could resend that out, because
Okay.
I know you sent it out last year, but if, you know, we could send it out for,
Okay.
2024 and out. And then, Mr. Pennington, I know that, we didn't have as in-depth budget discussions as we usually do. And we did discuss what capital expenditures you needed this year. But can you just email us a list instead of us having to go into the budget every time when one of these comes up?
Actually, the items that we are doing are the ones that you see on the agenda tonight, the leaf blower, or the leaf vac, I should say, as well as the Kubota. In addition to that, we had the recycling truck.
Those are the only 3?
Those are the only 3 on. Other than the carts, of course, that would be coming later.
Those are the only 3 that you get,
Yes.
right? Okay. All right, that's fine. But Mr. Kennedy, if you could just send that.
Okay.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Pennington? Is there a motion to approve the motion to see?
We went to a reserve status and getting rid of 2 vehicles from, I want to say, the 80s we have in our garage to basically replace this leaf vacuum consistent with the same style leaf vacs we've been using the last several years doing our annual fall leaf collection. And this purchase is something that was budgeted, and as being through Sourcewell, it's a single source bid for the project.
Councilman Weiser?
Mr. Pennington, we heard that getting something that's an upgrade over 2009? No, I'm being,
From the 2009.
doesn't have any additional power, nothing.
No, it's standard leaf vac. It's the old Dominion styles are what we are currently using. The American leaf vacuum trailer that we have, it's a very old unit, and we're putting it in reserve
Yeah,
status.
I realize that, but I'm surprised that we wouldn't try to upgrade how we suck up leaves if we could. I'm just curious.
It's a box we have on there. It
So we
fits
couldn't
in.
change it.
It works better to have equipment that is standard for doing what we're doing.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Mr. Pennington? Is there a motion to approve ordinance?
Before you go this way, I've got a couple of amendments. The ordinance, I didn't see this until last night. Over from the generator ordinance. So in section 2, I would replace generator with the words leaf vacuum, where it says in the middle, necessary to assist the service, cross out and police. So you just say service department operations during leaf season instead of power failures.
So when we are voting, can we say as amended?
Well, let's vote to amend first, then suspend the rules.
And
Should we blame Luke for this?
So is there any motion to amend the contract? What's the contract?
No, the ordinance, yes.
Is there a motion to amend the ordinance? It's per section 2 and section 4, right?
Correct.
I'll make a motion. Is there a second? I'll second. Mrs. Thomas, you
I
have.
don't want to hold anything up, just want to make sure it's correct.
You could strike it, yeah, draft this, so I don't know the effective date of the Sourcewell contract, but typically they are effective for 13 months, so it's like a 13-month period, but, so I'm guessing it's 4/3/24, but I don't know that for a fact, so if you just want to strike effective with the dates, just eliminate the problem. Has to be another contract, whatever, through the local.
So we want
Does that make sense?
I just want to make, I don't want to hold anything up, I just want to make sure it's correct when it goes through.
Yeah, so if we want to make another motion to amend, so we would strike the effective dates and whereas and whereas clause. So we are-
Councilor Calhoun. Mr. King.
Aye.
Mrs. Zak.
And a motion to approve.
Popularly called the annex. It is our only ADA compliant space under contract with the city. It is where our economic development department is located. It's where Mr. Brian has his office hours. It's where our HR department operates numerous committees. There's a conference room there. We continue to have a desire and a need to use that space, and Spalding Leasing has been kind enough to agree to a one-year extension that I think we should want to do. The city still needs the space, and next steps with regard to new municipal facilities, but for the time being.
Any comments or?
You know, I love it here, I guess. I also think it's been a crutch for administration to not proceed with the sorely needed facilities in the couple of years I've been on council. So I struggle with that. I hear might make sense, but I don't. I believe it's been grossly underused.
Actually, that we're having at the council of the whole for those other two ordinances to really take a look at, do we really need it? It doesn't, I mean, if we have an absolute need and there's more than one person one day a week showing up there, then it makes sense. I know the upper floor of City Hall is now a person up there as well. Might just, you know, if we're not, I don't think it would suffer somebody, but it would allow for a more thorough conversation about the space.
Mrs. Jeffries, do you have something?
Yes, as a person that uses the space, I don't know if you understand what I do throughout the week and who I meet with. All of the meetings I have are confidential. Most of my reports to you are done in executive session for a reason, because prospects of builders, real estate brokers that come to me, the mayor doesn't even know it at a certain time until I'm given the authority to let the mayor know then of a project or what's going on in the city. And then when I get the okay to let council know and then ultimately go public. Spot in that city hall that is a confidential space. What I will end up doing then is I will be either working from my home office or I'll be parking my spot at Panera and having conversations there, because I can't have conversations in an area where there's a lot of ears. I can't have people coming in who meet with me, because in the annex, nobody most residential. HR and I work very well. We can each go into our own, we go into closed offices when we both have people, because there's 2 office spaces. It is highly utilized. It's not as if there's nobody coming in and out. There's a lot of traffic in that office that I don't think council realizes. But I can't do my job in City Hall. There's nowhere for me to do my job unless I am away from people who don't see who's coming to see me and they can't hear HR. But trust me, that door is shut pretty much all day when she's there, and people are coming and going with training, negotiations, grievances. And by the way, she has been working way more than the former HR. There is a lot more traffic with all of these department heads through the annex with HR. So when you have that discussion, please take this into consideration. I will have nowhere to work. I cannot work in City Hall.
Thank you for clearing that. Thank you for clarifying. I hope that we knew all of that.
I would like to say thank you. You know, the council goes there. That doesn't happen. So that's what prompted my remarks. And we do need you to be successful and to support you and HR and whoever needs that confidential space. So thank you for clarifying. I need to.
She gave
Is there a motion
This is
to?
all, is that kind of information that really put everything into context. Really helped.
Ms. Marshall?
Thank you, Mrs. Drucker, for sharing that information, because I didn't have that knowledge either. And I'm also very concerned, because I heard her say several times that there is no privacy in City Hall. And I'm trying to understand why it's okay. Because the council clerk doesn't have any privacy. If that's the case, because she said that you can hear all the conversations going on that's up there, so that concerns me. So maybe there needs to be a space found over in the annex for the clerk of council too. I just don't understand. That concerns me. She said several times that you can hear everything and there's no confidentiality, and I'm not comfortable with that.
I was told that I have to ask for permission to go out for bids. So I would like to go out, because I have to get it to Kelly by Mondays. So I'd like to give it to her the Thursday. No, on the Friday, May 31st.
It says May 31st, 2004.
It says what?
2004.
Yeah, that is a typo. 2024.
That's what it is.
So,
Can you make an amendment with that, Vice Mayor?
I don't think so, Mr. Kearney. It's just, I mean, it's a motion to see bids, so there's a procedure. It's not as well aware of, and it's just the typo in the memo. Doesn't affect the motion.
Thank you.
Are there any questions on the bid for Ms. McAfee? Is there a motion to approve the bid process?
So,
Is there a second?
I'll say,
Ms. Thomas, we call the roll.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Sack? Aye. Mr. Queen?
Aye.
Mrs. White?
Aye.
Ms. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Weiser?
Thank you, that passes. And then we have agenda item N, the motion approving